Hello, my name is Scott Barrio. I'm the Executive Director of the Jorgensen Family Foundation and Hedge Apple Farm. The farm itself is the centerpiece of the Jorgensen Family Foundation, which is a 501c3 agricultural research and education foundation. And our mission is to develop and demonstrate sustainable and profitable models of beef cattle production. Basically, in a nutshell, we've developed a model that we believe is environmentally sustainable here at the farm and is profitable, and we try to teach other cattle producers from around the region how to have a similar business model on their own farms so that they can perpetuate farming from one generation to the next in a way that is both profitable and environmentally sustainable. Our impact on the surrounding environment is extremely important to us here. We have a mile of frontage on the Monocacy River, which is a major tributary into the Chesapeake Bay. So we're constantly monitoring any impact that we would have on the watershed through our farming practices. But we know also that having a pasture or grazing-based system, it provides a huge filter to the transfer of nutrients from our farm here, our acreage, potentially into the Monocacy River and then into the bay. We monitor water quality at both ends of our property and constantly are watching to be sure that we aren't impacting the watershed in a negative way. We also have a 100-foot wide wooded buffer fenced off from the river, so the cattle can't even get up to the river. They're at every place along our property are at least 100 feet away from the river. So we believe, as I said, that we've got a model here that's sustainable, profitable, and could provide a good living for a farm family. So I spend a lot of time teaching, and this is an outcropping of my previous life where I was a professor of animal science at the University of Maryland in College Park. I was trained at Michigan State University. I have degrees in biochemistry, microbiology, and animal science. I have a PhD in animal science. And been here with the foundation now for 6 years and producing the grass-fed beef that you folks all love. So if I could talk for a minute or two about the benefits of grass-fed beef, grass-fed meats in general, there's 3 areas that I'd like to cover. First, what we know to be scientifically correct regarding the nutrients and the nutritional profile of grass-fed meats. We know scientifically that grass-fed meats are higher in omega-3 fatty acids compared to conventionally raised meats, or beef specifically. We also know that the ratio between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids in grass-fed meats are more conducive to a healthy human diet than that ratio of those omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids in conventionally raised meats. Those are nutritionally significant, scientifically proven issues. The other nutritionally significant issue that I would mention would be the higher levels of conjugated linoleic acid, which has been proven scientifically to be an anti-carcinogen when included in the human diet. And we know that grass-fed meats are higher in conjugated linoleic acid than conventionally raised meats. So those, again, are nutritionally significant issues to consider. Now, we also know from a measurement standpoint that grass-produced, grass-raised meats are higher in vitamin A and vitamin E. The question remains whether that's a nutritionally significant finding in the human diet. Some would argue that it is not, that we aren't vitamin A or vitamin E deficient, and I believe that that's correct. But from the standpoint of quantity, just quantity of vitamin A and vitamin E, it is higher in grass-fed produced meats versus conventionally raised meats. And you can decide for yourself how that fits into your own diet. The other aspect that's important to us here at Hedge Apple Farm, and I think fits in well with the grass-fed nature of our operation, is that we raise all our cattle in what we would call natural, in a natural way. That definition is somewhat broad and subject to an individual's interpretation, so I'll just tell you what it means to us. Natural from the standpoint of Hedge Apple Farm means we do not use antibiotics, feed-wise or injected. We do not use artificial growth hormones in the cattle at any time. We do not use herbicides or pesticides. So if that definition fits your dietary goals or the goals for you or your family, then that definition of natural is what you would find here at Hedge Apple Farm. Grown without hormone implants, antibiotics, herbicides, or pesticides. Now I do want you to know that if we have an animal that gets sick, just like if you had a child or yourself got sick, we will treat the disease, and sometimes that involves antibiotics. What happens then is that individual animal will get a separate ear tag, distinct from the rest of the ear tags in our animals. It will have the withdrawal date for whatever product we use to treat the animal, and once that animal is healthy and has passed the withdrawal date for the drug of choice, the animal will then go to Hagerstown to the livestock market. It will not enter our food supply here at Hedge Apple Farm. That's just our protocol. But I also have to tell you that we have very few animals that get sick. In this environment where the cattle graze 365 days a year or are fed on hay during the coldest winter months, hay that's raised here on the farm, we find that the animals are healthy, they're vigorous, they do well, their calves do well. So we have a pretty sound health system here on the farm. We do vaccinate all of our cattle for a variety of diseases that they might encounter. One of the reasons we do that is because we have a huge deer population on the farm, as you might imagine, and the deer carry disease that can be transferred to cattle. So we protect our cattle through a vaccination program that is well thought out and carefully administered so that the cattle would be healthy 365 days a year. And the final thing, now we've talked about the nutrient content, the nutritional side of the meat, we've talked about the way we raise them here. The third thing I just want to suggest to you is the importance of supporting the local food system. If you like open space, if you like to see the green rolling hills, the cattle, the sheep, as you travel around the state, the way to perpetuate that is to make that business profitable for the families that are raising your food. And the way you help to make that profitable is to support local agriculture, to buy locally. I know you all do that, and I suspect you think through that in more than just your meat purchases, and we appreciate that greatly. But over the last 6 years as we've operated this on-farm retail store, my observation has been that local is the most significant driver in the food system for us. People like to know where their food comes from. I like to know where my food comes from. We have a global food system, and sometimes that can present challenges in the realm of food safety and food quality. So when you can purchase something right from where it's been raised or very close to where it's been raised or produced, I think not only because of the benefits of supporting the local food system, I think you're getting a healthier food supply. And so we endeavor to make sure that we support the local food system. Even in our purchases for things that we use here on the farm, we support the local agricultural system. And we appreciate the fact that you think through that when you make a purchase. The more money that we can keep in the local economy, the better off we are in terms of sustaining farming as a lifestyle and business alternative for our neighbors. Let me take a couple minutes to just tell you a little bit more detail about the farm. We're farming about 500 acres here in Buckystown. It is all in grass, in pasture, or in hay fields. Most of our fields are fenced, so they're dual purpose. We would consider them dual purpose, being that we can make hay in the early spring when there's lots of growth, and we can graze them year round. We do have some fields that we make exclusively hay, but all of the feed that we feed, we produce here. All of the hay for our winter feeding is produced here. The farm here in the market where we're sitting is our direct retail outlet, open to the public on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. We're open Thursday 12 to 5, Friday 12 to 5, and Saturday 10 until 3 p.m. So you can walk in and purchase 1 pound of ground beef or a whole cow's worth of meat, knowing that it was all produced here. In fact, One of the things that sets us apart is that every piece of meat that you purchase will have an individual animal ID on that. So we know exactly which animal the meat came from, and we know its mom and dad. Some of you may not find that to be interesting or valuable, but some do. For us, it's important that we can trace back to the very calf where each steak came from. We do that for a variety of reasons. Primarily, we feed that information into our genetics program, our breeding and genetics program. If we happen to produce an animal, a carcass, a steak, let's say, that doesn't meet our standards in terms of tenderness, juiciness, flavor, we will have the ability to go back and look at the breeding that produced that animal. And our farm manager, Jay, and myself will sit down and we'll take a hard look at the cow, maybe look at the bull, and decide whether or not that animal is going to fit into our breeding system in the future. So it's an important source of information for us, but it also, I hope, gives you some comfort knowing that in fact that animal was born, bred, and raised on this farm. And that's part of what we consider to be the accountability that customers demand when you reach out into the local food system. We're also available if you'd like to come out and see the farm. We have two groups of cows. One group that calves in the early spring, February, March, April time frame, and a group that calves in September, October, November. So we have baby calves running around a good part of the year. We'd be happy to have you come out for a tour of the farm, take you around. You certainly would see deer, you'd see the cattle, you might even see a bald eagle. And it's just a beautiful place to visit. So if you'd like to come out, want to contact me and set up a visit, we'd love to have you come out. Even if your Jim wanted to come out as a group, we'll take you on a hayride to see the farm, so you can see firsthand, right down to the grass, where your food is coming from. We'd love to host that.